One 4J middle school teacher's situation may sum up the problem best. The student teacher is supposed to have his own desk, but students are currently sitting on it because there's no room for their own desks. And when you consider 800 students will be affected by the closing of 4 4J elementary schools, and other districts are considering closing schools as well, the situation is bound to get worse. Here's a look at the numbers now. The average 4J student to teacher ratio for grades K through 3 is 24-1, grades 4 through 12, 26-1. But with budget cuts, those ratios are expected to increase by 3 to 4 students across the board next year. Over at Bethel schools, most elementary and middle school teachers stare at somewhere between 31 and 36 kids. In Bethel's high schools, history classes squeeze in the most students, around 40. The superintendent there says it's impossible to make the statement that one grade level will be impacted the most, and as we'll show you, numbers only tell part of the story. If more is better.
My 7th period is 40.
Then most local school districts have nothing to complain about.
They took 2 small sections of around 20 and combined it.
We have some first grades at 29 and 27.
Of course, when it comes to education, and specifically when it comes to class sizes, more is the exact opposite of better.
When you start getting into the high 30s, it's sort of a tipping point.
It's hard enough trying to understand calculus when you're up close, and so imagine being 56 kids deep in the back of the classroom.
Sometimes I have to stand up to be able to see the board because there are other people's heads in the way.
And he's one of the lucky ones, being he has somewhere to sit.
In my history class this year, there's actually not enough desks. Kids have, 3 or 4 kids have to sit on the windowsill every day.
We had 2 new students enroll on Tuesday. I had to make a plea for more desks.
But numbers and ratios don't really tell the whole story. It's the effect those numbers have that matters, and it's an effect South Eugene physics teacher Asher Tubman says can be seen on his kids' report cards.
I've noticed a maybe 20% drop in performance overall.
The issues, of course, begin from the start.
It's just, how do you run herd on 40 kids?
Noise begins to be a huge challenge.
At the elementary school level, it's as much about teaching kids to behave as it is about teaching them their ABCs. And as we all know, the younger a child is, the harder it is to get them to sit still.
My child right now in 3rd grade is a boy, and boys are a little rambunctious. I think that if there's too many kids in his class, he's more likely to pay less attention, and he's not going to get the one-on-one time on the subjects that he might be having trouble on.
And as they get older, the challenges get harder to overcome.
I do a lot of lecturing. I tend to go work with individual table groups.
Angie Rizika has seen her average science class expand to 31 students at Cal Young Middle School. The expansion forces her to make a choice. She can alter her style by doing less hands-on work or forge ahead, knowing she may not get to every student every time.
So in terms of what kids are learning, if I'm not getting there as often, they're probably not getting as much from me.
It's also much harder to give proper feedback. Many teachers don't have time to grade each paper. Instead, they just check off whether the student completed the task, overlooking whether they did the work the right way.
Really affecting my education because I don't get more one-on-one with the teacher.
What takes the most time is writing, and when you have more kids, it's the evaluating and the grading of that.
So who is it that suffers the most in this model? The answer to that question is still up for debate.
And legitimately concerned about our top achievers and what we're going to be doing to kind of address this pocket of kids that really would benefit from more enrichment.
Joyce Johnson, however, does not teach advanced math or AP English. She works specifically with the struggling students.
If the teacher's not able to really get in there and work with those kids, we're going to start seeing the pattern of them falling further and further behind.
While some worry about the top and others the bottom, many kids say it's everyone in between that tend to go unnoticed.
I feel like a lot of the kids that are high advanced and then there's the lower kids, I think they get a lot of attention, but just average students, I think that they don't get as much attention because the teacher's focusing on the top and the bottom.
In the end, each teacher has their own philosophy on how to deal with it.
I sometimes will take recesses just to spend a one-on-one time with kids.
While we would like to study butterflies, in 2nd grade or something like that, sometimes we have to make sure in these times when we're cutting days that we stick to just what the state calls for.
It's a situation that not only calls for a new approach by educators, but places more emphasis on parents' role as well.
If you can help in the classroom, you're not helping just your children, but all the children there.
But don't expect the trend to slow down anytime soon. Class sizes are expected to grow again in the coming year as some schools merge and others shut down.
I think it's going to be horrible, and that's why I struggle very much to figure out some way to keep the ratio change as low as possible.
A gloomy forecast that forces everyone to try and see the sun through the clouds, even if it's not always there.
There's some things that we can't control, and I think when we bring those worries to school, it makes it so difficult. So I try to stay positive and upbeat.
I'm just amazed at how they just step up and do whatever it takes.
Now, staffing ratio notices go out to 4J schools this week on February 23rd, and schools will be asked to develop 2 staffing plan scenarios for next fall. But the flip side to this issue is when those classroom sizes go from 40-plus students to 0 on furlough days. Well, tomorrow night at 6, we'll look at the impacts of furlough days. Live in the studio, Stacia Kalinowski, KEZI 9 News.